Right, now it is recording. Okay, so we have decided that to create a concept when user is clicking on this button, it has to directly in the previous concepts what we have done means the method what you have given directly given a definition. But instead of directly giving an access to a method definition, we just converted to its property, where from that property we are giving a definition that is called from that property we are executing that statements. Saying that instead of directly executing is a number of statements as a function, you are making that into a property and then converting into the definition. Okay, it's actually even ready to increment or sorry, ready to increment. But we have given a content where a content have to be defined and show this output. So okay, now as we have already discussed the concept of this one, each and everything, how it will works, then let us write its methods and then with console.log just a message. So okay, first of all, let me write once and we'll explain here. Component will mount. Component did mount. Then component will receive props. We can say any argument, new props. And should component update it's giving new properties same time new state also it will just check it out and will give new state and component will update based on the next props at the same time updating based on the next state. So component will mount, did mount, will receive props and should component update, component will update and the thing is component did update previous props and previous state. At last we can say it's unmounting. Where is that component will unmount? Okay, how these are based on situation it will execute means let us first write a render and return then just we are printing that property value. What is that property value? My number. Here we are giving an output, the property and its value from this, and so you can give a call directly to the this dot props dot my number. It is giving an output, so it is getting an output, and that is reflecting in the given main component itself. Okay, let us do one thing. I just copy these statements first. So component will mount is executed before rendering, either in both, either in server or client side, and that is just executing. As already we have discussed how it will just sorry, not discussed, as already we have discussed this one, component mode. So here it is just executing that statement, and for time being I just print that statement console dot log. Let me write to see this. I mean, it's not a mandatory. For our understanding purpose, instead of writing just a statement, sample statement, we are just printing this statement. That's it. And then component did mount. This is what we have. Course, and then it is a point of receiving the previous properties, or sorry, new properties, and component will receive props is invoked as soon as the props are updated, and another render is given a call, and we trigger the updated state. That is, it is going to render or invoked as soon as the props are updated before another render is called. Console dot log, and component, first one you can say component will mount, component did mount, component will receive. Then should component update is just giving a point of either true or false. We can say return true, will update, component will update what is just rendering, sorry, is just called just before rendering. Console dot log, and then did update after rendering. At last, unmount. Actually, depends upon the situation. We will be writing or giving a functionality here. Here, as we have given some sample functionality, it's just updating and giving. And based on the concept, when that particular method is executing, we are just going to see. So console.log and then
So component will
and
is called re-rendering or
as we have discussed here, is executed first render only on the client side. There is where Ajax requests and DOM state updates occur, which is something like API what we have done. API link. This method is also used for integrating other JavaScript frameworks, and additionally, this functions with a delayed execution such as timeout. That is, it can have a timeout, or it can have in the gap of how many seconds it has to execute. So how can you set such kind of execution of gap? Go to this index, because index is the main, and here after this one, I mean rendering of an app, you can also make it set timeout and then react DOM dot unmount component at node. Here document dot get element by ID of an app. In the gap of that is its timeout. So react DOM unmount component at node document dot get element by ID, then let us do one thing. Set timeout opening closing parenthesis. This is inside this we are passing empty and open with this, and okay, you have opened this one. Let me do one thing. Let me reconstruct once again. This one. Insert timeout. Component at node, and then document dot get element by ID of that app, and then that is, you can say, This is an app opening closing parenthesis and this is document opening closing parenthesis. So we are just unmounting after few seconds which we have given here. Let, let us see now the output. Okay, and then let us so open console tab. Something went wrong. Unmount component node target container is not a DOM. Why? We have let us check it out. Set timeout, React DOM, unmount component at node, document.get element by ID of an app. Let us enter into the app and it's having set new number. Okay, or else let us do like this. React DOM dot render directly given app and then that app document.get element by ID of the root. Hmm, now it's working. Okay, let us do one thing. One second. Changes. We can also give a call in the strict mode, but the only thing is, as it is working with the service worker, we are just unregistering. We are making comment, and then so okay after okay we got clarity. One second, let me continue. Let us make it to we have a button, and it is also is give a call rendering and before and after, and even that set new number, that is trigger is working. And after few seconds, that is as we have increased the time, so we are able to see now, at least now, after few seconds, that is 2 seconds what we have given here, then it is stopping, or else we can say it is unmounting. Once it is unmounting, it is not a DOM element. So even we also can write, make it, this is not a problem. Thing is, we are able to see and we are able to give a call is invoked as soon as the props, and we trigger it from set a new number. And for each and every call or user action is called just before and after. What are those just before and after? Just before will update, did update. After all 2 seconds which we have done, then unmount is done. And we can see unmount. That is unmounting that node. So here, according to the logic, what are the things are working means component will update, did update, unmount is working. As we have given did mount is just checking with the time slot. We can say after 2 seconds, it has to unmount opposite. So approximately for component did mount, should update is already internally working, but exactly we can see the output of did mount, will update, did update, will unmount. These are the four functionalities based on the output what we are seeing here. Autos functionality what we are seeing here. But in all the cases, not we. I mean, we don't use all the concepts at a time in one programming or in one application. It just depends upon your requirement, whether you are passing previous properties or updating, or whether you are taking the properties or updating or deleting whatever the changes that you are writing, that updates will work, and internally it is just giving either true or false. Only thing is we can mostly have to see, especially will receive props. It's very rare cases we can say. Did mount is common thing. Whenever it is required to two things. One is getting from the Ajax requests. Another thing is you can just set your timeout. Whereas should component update is internally either updating or not. It will just say depends upon the action of button user actions. Then will update did update. Finally is closing. Is called after the component of DOM is executed, unmounted. So like this, you can just place all the functionalities at one to see how these are all working. Okay, and with this, we are done with the concept of life cycle hooks, and these are all the built-in methods. Then the final point is a Redux. How that Redux is a additionally, Redux is an additional library, or we can say some additional tool to the React.js. How it will works, let us just let you know. I just create a sample thing, but one thing, we require some sample, like as we have done in previous example. Given, of course, at main stack, we have written a configuration separately, www, and some packages. So here also we have some sample. Then let me first show you what is Redux. Redux is a quite an excellent state management framework usually used with the React library. In single page applications, Data management client side is that is when you are giving a call to see some output. The data management at client side it won't work. For each and every time it is just updations for each and every time of an update of data that should enter into the server. Then only it will get back with the latest outputs. I mean, the rendering concept should done at server. Then only it will done at server. But to make it some possibility to make it something a speedy activity, then the Redux concept at client side how itself is working. We just these are just points I have given, and let me tell you actually how it will works means. mm, Here do we have any drawing? Okay, let us do one thing. Mm, Let me write here. Let us take this is a user, and when user is requesting, sorry, when user is requesting, it is a view, right? So the user will be expected in a view output and view what it is doing. It is connecting to the point of action. User is requesting something to see that output, and that is entering into the functionality. With this functionality, you are dispatching some output, and that is with the props and as well the required state outputs. With this, it is storing in the client side the data finally what we are getting. From this, it is entering into the view and display. If you observe, for each and every action, user is requesting and it is entering into its action part, and then what you can say, dispatching with the output, and that is displaying and storing. That is first storing in the client side, and from that client side, it is just giving an output. Okay, but to make it something easier for each and every client request, creating a separate location or sorry, creating a separate n number of views, n number of stores. That means you are requesting, I am requesting, and n number of people requesting. In that case, n number of users, n number of users are requesting, and for each and every request, it is just entering into the action and finally dispatching its current running outputs and creating n number of stores. How many users are requesting, and based on the number of users request, it is just creating n number of stores and finally giving their respective views. I am requesting, so I should get in my system, in my output, in my client. You are requesting, you should get in your client side. So this is how you can make this concept. The concept of let us just make it. There is an arrow on it. The concept of what you can say Redux is it's a predictable state is a predictable state container for JavaScript applications. It also follows unidirectional flow, either irrespectively requesting and sending the data. For each and every request there will be a common actions or some, and this action is dispatching that outputs, and that outputs are storing individually, and how which user is given a call, that particular user is getting an output from that store, and it's a single store. State is already ready and changes are made with functions. This is a concept that we are going to make in Redux additionally. When we have a React, we don't have such kind of multiple stores where it can hold multiple. If I am the user, for example, at a time I requested with multiple devices also, with multiple devices in multiple requirements, then how can I get means a multiple stores it will be creating. So multiple users, multiple stores, and multiple outputs we can get. Overall, how we can do with the concept of an actions, what kind of an actions it can be of anything, and based on the creations of an actions, you are giving an output. But before giving an output, you are storing and giving an output. How this practically will work, let us implement. Then to do this one, basic the common requirements we require is you even can also go with Bootstrap, but this time we are just going with another CSS framework, Bulma CSS. It is also same like a Bootstrap. Okay, and the things that you have to do: create a JSON package, npm install, and create a web package with configuration. It's a compiler, and create a sample HTML file and set up a CSS for your application. After all these things, then you have to in the SRC folder. It's a common structure. It's a common structure that you have to create in the SRC main.js, components, containers, actions, reducers. Okay, let us work how you can create. So let me do one thing. Let me first copy these four files, index in public folder. I'm just updating, which is package.json file. Overwrite all over the files. And then copy that index file in public.html. Okay. So first of all, let us open then open the package.json file and seeing that we don't have any special things, then Balma CSS, it's a CSS framework, same like Bootstrap, and then Babel. Okay, go to the webpack.conf. Here, what we have done, we are saying that that entry of your application should start with main.js and output that should give it bundle.js and compiler that should load. It has to test the files, especially whatever having .js, and that should be excluded with the node underscore modules. It's a common thing. I mean, what you can say, it is what you can say built-in modules right now, so that's why. And that output the development, it should start with its port number. So now what we have to do, you just okay enter into the index.html file once. There is no change at all, same file as earlier what all these things we have. So now you can do here, let me just check it out. Yes, this is it's not overrated, it's skipped. Actually, we require the web development server that should start and the required development dependencies that should start with the common Redux also. This is what we require. Let us copy, and your application name that is different. Your application name is React. Okay, this is so spelling. Okay, no problem. Or, or else let us do one thing. Let us write here that npm start that should start or that should give preference to. Okay, if you want, you can write, or else you can just after test. mm, After scripts right now. After scripts, if you want, you can write, or else you can also skip. So let me 1 second. Let me just check it out. Okay, then author development dependencies. So you can have dependencies we have, and here additionally to the React DOM Redux. Already we have React DOM, React scripts also, but additionally with these, okay, anyway, that latest version only we have. So React DOM, and these two things. So the required web development, I mean development dependencies, and the default packages that we require all these things. Okay, but I will do npm install later, not now because it will take time now. So what you have written here, the steps we have done now package.js file. After that, already we have done this one and all these things. This npm install and later npm start. Let us start later. In the src folder, in the src folder, create main.js JS. Then import React and then import render. Then we want to execute that and we want to create a store. So to create a store, we have import create store from Redux and then import provider from React Redux. First, we are importing that React and render separately. Actually, we can also go with React to DOM, but we are going to render a functionality. So we are giving a preference to render separately and then creating a store, providing the service of creating that store with the given output, and then we are going to connect to app component. So let us connect to the app component. Import app from. We will be creating a this app. We just move to the components this time. Components app import reducer. Now create store using the create store built-in method, which is a constructor, you can say, and we are expecting an output based on the reducer module. This is a file we are going to get an output finally, and that output that should give a store. And totally, we have to once we got an output, we just have to give a call and give an output. That's why we are writing now a render saying that a provider with the store and give an app. This is to be executed in document dot get element by id of root. So overall concept is as I have given you a diagram, we are the user is giving a call, it is entering into action, and finally it's dispatching and creating a store that should run with the based on the app. An app component is having its functionality or the displaying place, and this is totally how we can give in the main, that is root. Okay, now create a folder Where is that? In the src, create a folder and name it as components and move these files. You can also remove css and test also, but if you want you can make it. That is not an issue. Then now, as we have given here, just let us enter into the components of an app.js file and recode what we require. Here, let us do the concept or functionality of quantity functionality. Quantity functionality means when user is purchasing some product, will be selecting the number of items right now by clicking the plus button or minus button. Kind of an action we want to create here. Let us totally recode. Import React from React. Okay, as we are saying that we want to increment or decrement and how to see the current output. So I am just creating import as we have given here. Let us just observe. In the main, you are connecting to the app from the app containers, the functionalities. Based on the action done, it will enter into this functionality and it will throw that output to this and it will revert the output to the app. So now we are going to create import container from. We're just going to create later the folder containers. In the containers, counter, and then so we can say container add counter, sorry, counter, not container. That is final output, either adding or removing. And then now write a constant saying that add and that equals to okay. So let us write the 1 second, hold on please. So return div class name, as we have already used the in index.html. If you observe there is a Balma, okay, we did not return. Okay, we will write that one later. We have to use Balma.css now. We will update it. Let us open. Let us just check it out here. Actually, it's not updated what we have given. So in index dot now okay. Now as we have given a Balmo.css, you can just get that Balmo.css free open source and modern CSS framework, same like you can say Bootstrap. Either you can install that package or else you even can also simply download. Once you download, you will be having a particular file which is called balma.css. That just only one particular file, that balma.css, you can just copy into your folder, application folder. Okay, so then now here we have container and then counter, that is output which we are going to see. Then div class name, then class name. We want a container with columns, and this column I want to apply column that should occupy up to 11. So here we want just add counter. The output below that we are writing button, and the right hand side, that is the total 12 blocks. The last column that we can write as add counter and remove counter. Then export default app. So from these, what you have to do, you have to create a functionalities with the designs in add counter, remove counter, of course counter also. Then why this is created something as highlighted. and these two things are not highlighted. Let us see.
Add counter. No, it's not container.
Oh, sorry, sir. I'm thinking that I'm writing counter. Right. Hmm, right. Okay. Now let us first enter into the containers folder, that is create a containers folder in the src folder itself. Containers in the in the containers, create a file of counter, add counter, and remove counter. Counter.js. Additionally, add counter.js, and then remove counter.js. And this, first of all, okay, let us work with the add counter. Import React connect. She's actually, in all the cases, in all the examples or concepts what we have discussed, export default that particular component. Additionally, with the component output which you are exporting, you are also writing an functionality here. Let me first write this connect, import connect from React Redux. Import add counter. It is a functionality when user clicks on this button, it has to enter into its definition. And these actions that should be in the actions folder. One second, hold on please. Right. So now import React component, connect, add counter, and then bind action creators from Redux. Okay, so now let us write here class the name of that component, add counter, which extends a component. And here, as we are working with properties, so let us write a constructor with props, then super of props, and then render with return due class name, and that equals to container. We are going to create a button format. So, and then due class name, and that equals to field is grouped. Class name, and that equals to button type equals to button, and then class name, and that equals to, these are all classes which are from Balma.c itself, is hyphen primary. When, okay, let me write here, add. When you click this button, it has to give a call to definition and enter into the definition and do some process. So to do now, on click, inside this we are just passing an event when user is clicking on this button. It should not execute defaultly. That meaning, to stop a default execution, we can just say a prevent default. And when user clicks this button, it has to enter into the definition of an action and it has to dispatch. So that's the reason we are sending this dot props dot using a dispatch built-in method of that functionality. I mean, you can say the given definition which you have given. This add counter is given at line number 3 in the actions. So you here you are just designing a page or a buttons what we require. Once user clicks on it, then only it will enter into its definition. But okay, generally you will be exporting export default add counter, like this you will be writing. But along with the counter, along with that, here we don't have any program, or we can say here we don't have any functionality. We are just giving a call and it has to take that property and has to send. So that's why we are writing here export default connect add counter with a user defined function which is called map dispatch to props. Export default connect connect of what you are going to write map dispatch to props. Let us write that functionality here itself. Function definition. Function space map dispatch to props dispatching then with the return statement the actions bind action creators the concept of an add counter or the functionality with dispatch. So overall meaning here is when you are exporting the component you are even connected to your add counter. How this will be connected means the syntax that you have to follow a connect of something name of that function with something name of your component that should dispatch something this value that should enter into the add counter and how these two things will be done means with the concept of bind action creators. This is the concept that you have to do the same. Let us write in place of an add counter, remove counter. Then remove counter, and here you are dispatching to the sorry, I can say remove counter. So now in both cases we are expecting something an actions that should perform. Then create a folder actions. In these actions, then create what are the actions that you have to do. That is called we can say action types. And let me write here action type dot js. Just write that statement of export const add counter and that equals to this is a flag what you are going to set and same time export const remove let us write here counter add counter remove counter. The combination of this either add or remove. You are just setting into the index page. So index file. You can say import everything as action type from the given file, which is action type. Now export const. You have given a function call in add counter.js and remove counter.js, which is add counter. And that definition you are now writing here add counter, and that equals to what is the type. First you have to just write a type from the action type which you have imported dot add counter, comma, how much it has to add for each and every time when it is user clicking on the button. You can say that is called a payload of one. In the same way, export const remove counter. Action type dot remove counter. Then we are ready to do action of add with one or remove with one. And the final thing that has to done based on the user, if user is clicking add, it has to do, or if user is clicking remove, it has to do. But where is that incrementing or decrementing? That you have to create a separate folder in the final folder, which is called, we can say it's a reduces. These components, actions, these components, containers, actions, and reducers are common irrespective of the Redux concept. Only internally, the concept what you are expecting, it will be changing the logics, but the structure of this one is common. So write a reducers, and in these reducers, write counter reducer dot coun, counter reducer dot js. Import star as same action type from where it has imported. It has to import from actions folder and then action type. With this, now const write a state, and that equals to 0. That is default we are setting as 0. And based on that action, it has to update. So here, let us write a new state. A new state. Now, switch case. If action if action dot in the action, if the type is, then write a case action type dot add counter. If it is matching with add counter, then return new state, and that equals to, with the existing that value of 0 plus, with the action dot payload. Action dot payload. If none of this is done, default, then just return a state. Export default counter 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 reducer. Okay, so this is how we can write. And the final points, we have two things. One is we have to connect to index file, and that should be given an output with counter. These two things that we have to write, that we'll discuss in tomorrow's session. Okay, and along with this, even I will be keep it ready, the required packages what we have written, and that will install and keep it ready. Okay, na?
Okay. Thank you.
And of course, maybe tomorrow itself we will be completing the class, even the concept, and we'll start with an Angular immediately. Okay, right, right then. Thank you and bye.
Thank you.